Hello, everyone. Welcome back to today's story. In this episode, we join James and Diep as they celebrate a brand new chapter in their lives. After months of struggling, they finally succeed in registering DJ Enterprises, a business that carries both of their names and dreams. To mark the occasion, they prepare a luxurious meal of Alaska lobster and king crab, not just to celebrate success, but to honor how far they've come together. But as champagne glasses clink and laughter fills the kitchen, along with the quiet realization that this is only the beginning, what challenges will await their company in the days ahead? Stay tuned until the end to find out. And don't forget to subscribe to help us reach 10,000 subscribers. Your support means the world to us. The golden light of evening spills through the window, wrapping the small kitchen in a warm, homely glow. Diep stands by the stove, a wisp of steam curling around her face as she flips the lobster sizzling in butter. The aroma of garlic and herbs fills the air, blending with the soft clatter of pots. It's not just another dinner. Tonight marks something special. She wipes her hands on her apron, glancing at the clock, her heart pulsing with quiet excitement. James promised he'd be home early to celebrate. Moments later, the sound of the front door opening breaks the stillness. James steps in, the cool night breeze following him for a second before the door clicks shut. He's in a crisp suit, tie slightly loosened, his face lit up by a smile that melts away the fatigue of the day. "Smells amazing," he says, slipping off his shoes and walking straight into the kitchen. Diep turns around, her eyes lighting up at the sight of him. "You look so handsome tonight," she teases softly. "If I didn't know better, I'd think you were coming home from a red carpet, not the office." James chuckles, loosening his tie a bit more. "Well, tonight deserves it. We're not just having dinner. We're celebrating the birth of something big." Diep raises an eyebrow playfully. "You mean our company?" He nods, his grin widening. "Exactly. DJ Enterprises, Diep and James. The registration went through this morning. We're officially in business." Diep's hand pauses on the ladle. Her chest fills with pride, and her lips curl into a genuine smile. "You did it, James. We did it." He walks closer, peering into the steaming pot on the stove. "What are we having?" "Alaska lobster and king crab," she replies, her tone half proud, half nervous. "Our first fancy meal as business owners. I even splurged on imported butter." James laughs. "So this is what success tastes like?" "Hopefully not all of it," Diep jokes, stirring the pot. "Otherwise, we'll go broke feeding ourselves." He rolls up his sleeves, grabbing a knife to help her prepare the crab. "Let me give you a hand. I've spent the whole day signing documents. Cutting crab legs sounds like a nice change." The two work side by side, their movements easy, familiar. The gentle rhythm of chopping and sizzling fills the room, blending with their laughter. Outside, the wind hums faintly against the window. But inside, everything feels warm and alive. As James splits open the lobster shells, Diep watches him for a moment. His steady hands, his focus, the quiet determination that always pushes him forward. "You really didn't have to rush home," she says softly. "I know how busy you are." He glances at her, smiling. "And miss this? No way. I promised we'd celebrate every milestone together, remember?" Her eyes glisten slightly. Yeah, I remember. When the food is finally done, they set the table with care. A bottle of white wine, 2 simple plates, and the grand dishes at the center. Bright red lobsters glazed with butter, golden brown crab legs steaming with ocean scent, a bowl of garlic noodles on the side. James pours them both a glass. To new beginnings, he says. Diep raises her glass, clinking softly against his. And to us, may we never forget where we started. They sip, the cool wine cutting through the rich flavor of seafood. For a moment, silence stretches between them, but it's the comfortable kind. The kind that only comes from 2 people who fought side by side through countless storms. So, James says after a while, leaning back slightly, we need to start thinking about the company's office. I saw a few rental listings near the Riverside district. Great view, close to clients, plenty of light. Diep nods, chewing thoughtfully. That sounds perfect. I'll help design the space. Maybe a minimalist theme. White walls, warm lighting, some plants. Of course, James agrees. You've got the eye for that. Diep smiles faintly, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. It's funny, she murmurs. Just a few months ago, we were both worrying about rent, and now look at us, eating king crab like we're already successful. James chuckles, lifting a lobster claw. Fake it till you make it, right? She laughs, the sound soft and genuine. Right. The warmth of the food seeps into their bones. The tension of their old lives, the job losses, the sleepless nights, the uncertainty begins to fade. What replaces it is a quiet, growing confidence. After a few bites, Diep looks at him, curious. Do you ever feel scared? James pauses, setting down his fork. Scared? Yeah, about starting something new, about failing. He exhales slowly. Of course I do, every day. But then I look at you, and it reminds me why I started in the first place. Her lips part slightly, caught off guard by his sincerity. James. He smiles, reaching across the table to take her hand. You believed in me when no one else did. That's all the courage I need. Diep squeezes his hand, her throat tight with emotion. We'll make it, won't we? He nods firmly. We will. DJ Enterprises isn't just a company. It's our promise to keep going, no matter what. The room falls quiet again. The candlelight dances between them, reflecting in their eyes like 2 tiny stars. Outside, a faint drizzle begins to fall, tapping softly on the roof. The wind carries the scent of rain and soil. Inside, the aroma of lobster and butter still lingers. Diep rises to refill their glasses, humming a tune under her breath. As she turns back, James is watching her, really watching her. The woman who once hesitated to dream now stands confident, radiant in her small kitchen, carving out her own path. You know, he says suddenly, we should plan a launch party. Diep nearly spills the wine. A party, already? Why not? We've earned it. Just something small. Friends, family, maybe a few partners. She laughs, shaking her head. You're serious? Completely, James says. And I'll cook next time. Maybe something even fancier. Wagyu beef or oysters. Diep grins. You'll burn the house down before you cook anything right. They both burst into laughter, the kind that fills every corner of the room. Later that night, After the dishes are cleared and the wine bottle stands empty, they sit together on the couch, the TV flickering softly in the background. Diep leans her head on his shoulder, her voice barely above a whisper. "Thank you," she says. "For what?" "For coming home early. For all of this." James turns to her, brushing her hair gently. "Thank you for believing in me, in us." The night deepens, wrapping them in a cocoon of warmth. For the first time in a long while, neither of them feels afraid of what's next. The sound of rain outside becomes a quiet lullaby, a promise of renewal. The next morning greets them with the soft light of dawn slipping through the curtains. The smell of coffee drifts through the small house as Diep stands barefoot in the kitchen again. This time, not cooking lobster, but brewing James's favorite roast. Her movements are slower, calmer. The anxiety that once haunted her mornings has faded into something new. Anticipation. James steps out of the bedroom, his hair still damp from a shower, sleeves rolled up, phone pressed to his ear. "Yes, we'll meet at 10. Make sure the documents are ready," he says, his tone firm but steady. When he hangs up, he notices Diep watching him with a soft smile. "Early start, huh?" she teases, pouring coffee into 2 mugs. "Yeah," he replies, taking one gratefully. "Big day ahead. We're meeting the property agent to check out that Riverside office." Diep leans against the counter, sipping her drink. "Can you believe it? Yesterday, we were just talking about it. And today, we're actually going to see it." James smiles, his eyes gleaming. That's how dreams work, Diep. Once you say them out loud, the universe starts moving things for you. They share a quiet moment, the steam from their cups curling between them like a silent connection. A few hours later, the two arrive at the Riverside district. The area hums with energy. Glass buildings reflecting sunlight, cafes opening for morning rush, the river glimmering nearby. The property agent, a cheerful man in his 40s, greets them with a bright grin. "Mr. James? Miss Diep? You're right on time. Follow me. The space I'm showing you is one of my favorites." They step into the building, their footsteps echoing through the clean marble lobby. The elevator opens, and within moments, they're on the 5th floor. When the agent unlocks the door, sunlight floods in from large windows overlooking the river. The space is open and airy. Blank white walls, wooden flooring, and that perfect morning glow that makes everything look possible. Diep walks slowly, her fingers brushing the walls. "It's beautiful," she whispers. James nods, his mind already racing with plans. "We could put desks here, meeting space there, maybe a small corner for you, your design desk." Diep turns, smiling, and a coffee station near the window. "I want people to feel inspired when they walk in." The agent chuckles. "I can already picture it. This place is going to be something special." James glances at Diep, and for a moment, they both see it. Their names on the glass door, clients walking in, the hum of ideas turning into something real. After signing a temporary lease, they walk out into the sunlight, excitement buzzing through their veins. James takes Diep's hand, giving it a squeeze. "This is it. Our start." She nods, eyes shining. "I'll decorate the office myself. It'll be simple but elegant. Something that feels like us. Deal." he says with a grin, but promise me one thing, no gold wallpaper. Diep laughs, playfully hitting his arm. You'll see, you'll love it. As they stroll along the riverside, they pass a small seafood stall. The vendor waves them over. Fresh crab and lobster, just arrived this morning. Want some for lunch? James exchanges a look with Diep, then laughs. Why not? Yesterday was our company dinner. Today can be our company lunch. They buy a few fresh crabs, and by the time they return home, the scent of salt and sea fills the air again. Diep ties her hair up, rolling her sleeves. All right, boss, she says with mock seriousness. You're my assistant today. James salutes dramatically. Yes, ma'am. Tell me what to do. Start by cracking those crab shells, she orders. He laughs, grabbing a hammer from the drawer. This is definitely not in my CEO job description. They fall into an easy rhythm again. Laughter, clattering shells, the hiss of butter melting in the pan. As the crabs cook, Diep glances at James, her smile softening. You know, I used to be scared of dreaming too big. But now, with you, it doesn't feel scary anymore. He looks up from the pan, eyes warm. That's because you're not dreaming alone anymore. The words linger between them, richer than any wine. After lunch, they sit outside on the porch. Plates empty. The afternoon sun painting everything gold. James leans back, exhaling deeply. You know, Diep, when I lost my job last year, I thought it was the end. I kept thinking about how I failed, how I'd never be enough. But now, sitting here with you, eating seafood fit for a king, planning our company, it all makes sense. Every failure led to this. Diep watches the breeze ripple across the trees. Sometimes we have to be broken first before we know how strong we can be. He nods slowly, his eyes softening. You're my strength, Diep. For a while, they sit in silence, watching the sunlight dance on the leaves. Then Diep laughs quietly. When we open the office, I'm putting a rule on the wall. Oh yeah? What kind of rule? No meetings before coffee, she says, grinning. James bursts out laughing. That's fair. And mine will be no skipping lunch. Deal, Diep says, holding out her pinky. He links his with hers, sealing the promise. Evening comes, and the two begin setting up a makeshift corner in their living room. Papers spread out, laptops open, design sketches scattered across the table. It's messy, but it's alive with purpose. As they brainstorm logo designs, James suddenly leans closer. Hey, what about this? DJ Enterprises. But the D and J form the shape of a wave. It fits with the Riverside office, symbolizes movement and flow. Diep's eyes light up. That's actually brilliant. She sketches it quickly, her pencil gliding with confidence. See? You've got a creative side too. Maybe you're rubbing off on me, he says with a grin. Hours pass before they realize how late it's gotten. The crickets outside start their night song, and the faint sound of the river hums in the distance. Diep stretches, rubbing her eyes. I think that's enough work for today. James nods, closing his laptop. You're right. Tomorrow's the real beginning. She smiles, walking toward him. Then let's make tomorrow count. He pulls her into a gentle embrace. We already are. Later, as they lie in bed, the moonlight slipping through the window, Diep whispers, You know what I'll remember most about today? What? The smell of butter and crab, and the sound of you laughing. James chuckles softly. Then I guess I'll have to keep making you laugh. She smiles against his shoulder, eyes closing. Promise? Promise. And as sleep drifts over them, the soft rhythm of their breathing blends with the hum of the night. Two hearts beating in sync with a dream that's only just begun. Their company might still be small, their future uncertain, but in this quiet moment, it feels like they already have everything they need. Love, courage, and the taste of Alaska lobster and king crab. Reminders of how far they've come and how bright their next chapter will be.